During peak season, it seems like every mountain bike newsfeed has something in it that takes place at Whistler Bike Park. But a recent poll showed that only 22% of this audience has been to a resort-style bike park, let alone Whistler specifically. So today, I'll presume nothing about your knowledge of bike parks or Whistler, and provide a crash course for the 78%.
Whoa, what are you... What's the matter with you?
No pun intended.
Why did you do that?
I lost the pedal and I looked down to place it again.
Look at this video as a refresher to make that stuff in your newsfeed a little more relevant and easy to follow. Let's start with some disambiguation. Whistler is a municipality about 80 miles north of Vancouver, Canada. It has schools, grocery stores, houses, coffee shops, a hardware store, a museum, and even a library just like your town. But it's all planned around a ski resort and bike park called Whistler Blackcomb. This video has not been made in affiliation with the town or resort. Speaking of the bike park, it's not even close to the only place to ride in Whistler. And the town is also situated close to Squamish, Pemberton, and a long list of other great riding destinations. No doubt many people come to Whistler just to be here, and there are many other things to do besides mountain biking and skiing. But as you can imagine, staying in Whistler is quite costly, from the housing to the amenities. But not everyone here is rich or even close to it. By taking day trips, camping outside of town, or just making sacrifices and saving up, many ordinary mountain bikers make the pilgrimage to Whistler Bike Park. And no matter what direction you're coming from, that pilgrimage ends up being a pretty stunning trip. Resorts like Whistler Blackcomb are primarily for skiing, with mountain biking only becoming a source of summer revenue over the last few decades. This is important because I've seen a lot of resorts treat mountain biking like an off-season activity, but not Whistler. Here, there's always something new going on, whether it be changes to existing trails or the development of brand new ones. The sheer quantity and variety put Whistler in an elite category shared only by a few destinations. Because it's been like this for so long, countless bike companies and professional riders have planted roots in Whistler's vicinity. So even as other amazing destinations step up their game, it'll be some time before any have the clout enjoyed by this whole region. But I don't think it's the clout that keeps the masses coming back. It's the stuff out on the mountain. And most trips up it start with a short ride on the Fitzsimmons Express, the first lift that takes you to the Fitzsimmons Zone. This is where iconic trails like A-Line and Dirt Merchant are located, and the majority of laps at Whistler Bike Park will begin and end here.
How long does this take?
5 minutes.
I feel like we're zooming. This is great.
From the Fitzsimmons Zone back to the base, you lose about 1,200 feet of elevation. That's a healthy number, and it's enough to wear most people out. But it's not even close to all the vertical Whistler has. From the top of Fitzsimmons, you can hop on the Garbanzo Express and gain another 2,700 feet of elevation. Up in the Garbanzo Zone, or Garbo, you'll find a whole lot of raw, steep, advanced features, from exposed rock rolls to plain old harrowing tech. From there, you can even descend to a completely different part of the mountain, called Creekside, which has a lot of tight single track and even some loam. Compared to the rest of the mountain, Creekside's trails are somewhat new, and the area has opened up a whole new canvas for Whistler to expand its trails. But you can go even higher. Once the snow melts later in the summer, you can take a gondola to the peak of Whistler and gain another 1,100 feet of rocky technical goodness. From top to bottom, this bike park loses over 5,000 feet of elevation and contains over 155 miles of trail. But the most impressive part is the variety. In one run, you can ride loam, rock rolls, tech, wooden features, and high-speed jump trails. And most of it is shielded from the elements by trees, which is something you might take for granted if you've never tried to ride jumps in the wind. And speaking of jumps, there are a lot of them at Whistler, but none as well known as those found on A-Line. Although there are actually more impressive jump trails at Whistler, A-Line is the one that gets the most attention, for a few reasons. The corridor is very wide. There's plenty of space between the jumps. The lips are predictable, and as I mentioned, almost the entire trail is shielded from the wind by trees. The landings are also massive, which means casing these jumps usually won't kill you. It's these safety factors that make A-Line so popular. Anyone with a good amount of jumping experience can work their way through it, and ride way bigger jumps than they would normally feel comfortable with. It's also a great training ground for the bigger jump trails like Dirt Merchant and Crabapple Hits. One notable jump on A-Line is the Moon Booter, which comes about 3/4 of the way down. It starts with 2 mind-blowingly huge berms and a plunge into a gully. You go full on, pump the roller, and literally fly. At the very end of the run, there's a large step up that everyone on the lift line can see. And this thing, you can hit as fast as you want. You won't be running out of landing. For fun, I decided to record A-Line from top to bottom and sync it with a stopwatch to find out just how much airtime one can achieve in a typical run. Now, jumping is not my strong point, and there are people who boost these way higher than me. But I still clocked almost 40 seconds of airtime in just one run. That means that in one trip to Whistler, you could easily spend 10 to 15 minutes flying. These factors make A-Line probably the most famous jump trail in the world, and certainly the most popular one at Whistler. If you need to work on your jumping or just warm up, there's also a smaller run at Whistler called Crank It Up, which starts out with really small jumps and gradually works up to bigger ones. You don't need much speed to clear these, and like A-Line, they're mostly forgiving. Crank It Up is also a great introduction to big berms and big braking bumps. Jumps certainly get most of the media attention at Whistler, but the technical trails here are plentiful to say the least. Every year, I ride tech trails here that I've never seen before, and every time they challenge me.
Why don't you guys just rock, paper, scissors?
Alright.
Yeah. Rock, paper, scissors. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Okay. I'll go first.
I love how you guys assumed that loser goes first.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, my bike does me well on that kind of
Yeah, that actually didn't feel that bad.
But lest you think you can bring a GoPro and do justice to the gnarly stuff you are riding, just forget it. As great as Whistler is, it's still subject to the GoPro effect. In this video, we haven't even scratched the surface of what's in Whistler Bike Park, and I'm certainly saving some of it for future videos, as I'll be spending a few weeks here. But hopefully this gives you a good idea of how big this bike park is, why people make such a huge deal out of it, and why some of the biggest events of the year, like Crankworks, take place at Whistler. Anyway, I have a new bike to shake down and a whole lot of trail to explore, so I'll catch you next week. Until then, thanks for riding with me today, and I'll see you next time.